You have just received an invitation to a White House state dinner, and my goodness, look at that! You are the guest of honor. This invitation was written by hand by the chief calligrapher of the United States, and your invitation has been announced in newspapers all over the globe. This is the most important party in America. It will run the federal government somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000, and it's happening because the president needs something from you. You, by the way, are not you. You are some kind of foreign head of state or high-ranking member of a royal family. You've never heard of Half as Interesting, and unless something really bad happens to you, you never will. But now you're probably wondering, what can I expect at the most secure, diplomatically sensitive, and lavish party that the US federal government can throw? Well, first, you're gonna have to block out your schedule. A state dinner at the White House is just one component of a larger diplomatic event, an official state visit. You see, Emmanuel Macron visiting Florida in his capacity as fun-time chest hair Macron is one thing, but Emmanuel Macron visiting the United States in his capacity as French President Macron is a whole different ballgame. The United States rarely invites foreign leaders for official state visits, usually only a few hundred people per year, so when they do, they go all out. Your visit to the United States will last 4 days and will begin, like any lavish US vacation, in suburban Maryland. Your government aircraft, whether it be the Royal Air Force's Voyager, Air India One, or whatever it is that Australians get around in, will touch down here in Joint Base Andrews, just east of Washington, D.C. The ground crew will move a carpeted staircase into place, and 4 groups of people will take their positions. There are 6 members of the Color Guard, to remind you you're in America 6 times, 21 members of the U.S. military, unless you're only a chief of government and not a head of state, in which case there will only be 19, because those 2 guys had better things to do than standing 4 feet away from Rishi Sunak. Then there's the band, for banding, and the welcoming committee, for welcoming. This group, which will greet you at the bottom of the stairs and escort you down the carpet, is headed up by a random school child holding a bouquet, and this guy, Ethan, who you probably don't recognize, but could, in fact, start World War III if he had a bad day at work. From there, you'll enter an armored Chevrolet Suburban and be escorted by the Diplomatic Security Service, which is kind of like the Secret Service but with fewer secrets, to one of 2 locations. You might be invited to stay in the White House guest quarters in either the Queen's bedroom or the Lincoln bedroom, but this is up to the discretion of the president. This is only offered to people that the president deems worthy of seeing him in his pajamas, which in most cases is no one. In most cases, guests of the president stay here, Blair House. This 119-room building, right across the street from the White House, acts as the president's guest house. It has at various times been occupied by Queen Elizabeth, Vladimir Putin, and Charles de Gaulle, so you can be rest assured that it is both very nice and very not blow-upable. The interior has been tastefully arranged for you by the Department of State's Office of Fine Arts with millions of dollars worth of antique furniture, alongside a private doorman, 2 butlers, 4 housekeepers, 2 chefs, a launderer, and your very own curator. You will also, of course, be guarded at all times by the Diplomatic Security Service to ensure that you make it to dinner alive. The night of the dinner, you will take the same armored Suburban to the north portico entrance of the White House. That is, the big one. What in a normal house would be referred to as the front door. The president and the first lady will meet you there, dressed either in black tie or, on occasion, and only if you're a bona fide head of state, in white tie attire. There is technically a difference, but boy do we not have time to tell you what it is. You and the president will exchange gifts, limited by US law to no more than $390 in value, take a photo, and then head upstairs to the yellow oval room for appetizers and cocktails. Only a select few people at the dinner are invited upstairs for these cocktails, a handful of important politicians, diplomats, and celebrities that the president needs to schmooze you. And after you have been sufficiently schmoozed, you follow the president down the grand staircase to one of 3 locations: the Rose Garden, the East Room, or most commonly, the State Dining Room. This is where some of the most precise diplomacy of the evening goes down. The White House will have sat you at one of 8 tables. Each holds exactly 10 people, and every single seat is carefully assigned by the Department of State to curate the right conversations between the right people. You'll give a toast, which isn't really a toast since it's technically considered a diplomatic statement and kept on record by the White House, and then the first of 4 or sometimes 5 courses will be served. These, like all of the food in the White House, are prepared in a secure facility with specially screened chefs and ingredients that have been purchased in local grocery stores by undercover White House staff. Each course is served on a timer, keeping the dinner exactly within a pre-specified window of time, usually somewhere between 55 and 75 minutes. From there, you and the rest of the guests will be moved to the East Room for 20 to 30 minutes of music, and then back to the entrance hall for dancing, unless you are elderly or the Pope, in which case no one is allowed to dance. And that concludes your state dinner. You are now officially a close ally of the United States, and I am so canceling you on Twitter. And by the way, if you're a newfound state dinner head, you'll want to mark your calendar for April 10th, 2024. That's the next one, when the Bidens will be hosting the Prime Minister of Japan. And if you want to read about that visit, I recommend heading to this video's sponsor, Ground News. They're a website and app designed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, and objective way to read the news. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. Here's that story on the Kishida visit. Right away, you can see that 23 news outlets have reported on the story. Of these 23, 59% are from center-leaning publications, while 32% lean left and the rest lean right. You can see who owns each of the publications writing about the visit, and how factual and/or politically biased they tend to be, all of which is especially helpful when you're reading news from outside your home country, i.e. places where you might not be as quick to recognize what's a reliable source and what's a far-right conspiracy dressed up as a magazine. You can even compare headlines to see how this bias might affect framing. Most of the headlines are pretty straight-up informational. The visit is happening on April 10th, this is who will be there. But if you're reading about, say, Japan pulling funding from UNRWA, you'll get stories with heavier bias and more mixed reliability, not to mention headlines that emphasize super different parts of the story. I especially like their blind spot feature, which shows you stories that are underreported by either side of the political spectrum. In a complicated media environment, Ground News pulls back the curtain with a suite of simple visual tools that help you understand where your news is coming from and form your own opinions on it. And good news, HAI viewers get 40% off a Vantage subscription right now by going to ground.news/halfasinteresting or clicking the link below. You'll support both an independent news platform and this channel when you do, so thanks.